Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakio, and the title of today's talk is Making Friends with Our Mind. But before we get into that, I'll remind you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. Also, if you want to do a deep dive into Buddhist practice, I'd encourage you to check out my book, Perfectly Ordinary Buddhist Teachings for Everyday Life. It's available on Amazon, and there's a link to a sample chapter of the book in the description for this talk. Now, one common idea in Buddhist circles and in spirituality in general is the idea that our mind is the enemy. In fact, I've even heard people say that we need to kill our ego or kill our sense of self. And frankly, this is a mistake. A lot of it comes from the mistaken notion that there is no I in Buddhism. And this is a misunderstanding of the teaching of non-self, which I've talked about in previous videos. Suffice it to say, there is an I. I am talking to you right now, and your I is listening to my I talk. So our goal in Buddhism isn't to kill our egos or to subjugate our minds. Rather, it's to make friends with them. It's to train them, to work with them in a skillful manner. And to understand how this works, I'll tell you a little story about dogs. So I have a family member who is a professional dog trainer. And before the pandemic and the lockdown started, I would go to his house and I was always shocked by how well trained his animals were. They would sit and stay whenever they were told. You could leave food out on a table, they wouldn't eat it. They never barked or bit anyone unless they were instructed to do so. These were protection animals, so biting on command was part of their training, but again, only when they were doing their job as protection animals. And I always compared that to other dogs I saw at a friend's house, and my friend's dogs were not well trained. So I'd watch them run around and they would bark at people and nip at their ankles, and they'd jump on tables and eat food, and I even saw them poop on the carpet once. So we might be tempted to say that my family members' dogs are good and my friends' dogs are bad, but that's a misunderstanding. The only difference between these two pairs of animals is that one is well trained and one isn't. That's it. Good dog, bad dog, doesn't matter. Trained dog versus untrained dog matters quite a bit. And our mind works in the exact same way. If we have greed, if we have anger, if we have ignorance in our minds, that's not something to beat ourselves up over. It's just a reminder that our minds need more training. And if we understand that, then we understand the purpose of our practice. Again, it's not to kill our ego. It's not to subjugate our minds. It's simply to train our minds so that we can use them as tools to end suffering for ourselves and others. Of course, that begs the question, how do we do that? And there are many ways to train our minds in Buddhism. But one simple way that I like quite a bit is a technique called opposing forces. And simply put, what that means is if we have an unskillful thought, we do the opposite. So for example, if someone is being very proud and very envious in a Buddhist temple, the teacher may have them do bows or prostrations in front of the altar. Why? Because prostrating is the opposite of pride. It's the opposite of envy. It's an act of humility. And bowing teaches our mind humility, opposing forces. Maybe we have a lot of greed that we're working with, so we can oppose that by giving a donation to a charity we like, or buying a present for a friend, or maybe just giving someone a compliment. We can be greedy with our affection just like we can be greedy with our dollars. And again, this opposing force retrains our mind. Instead of being a mind of greed, it's a mind of compassion and generosity. Or maybe we're dealing with a lot of anger. There's a certain person we don't like. All right? So how do we oppose that? Well, maybe we give them a compliment. We want to call them a dirty so-and-so, and instead we say, hey, I like your shirt. Hey, why don't you let me buy you lunch sometimes? In doing that, being kind to the person who we're angry or hateful towards, again, retrains our mind. It replaces that anger with kindness and compassion. And what's fun about this practice is we can be creative with it. We can have fun with it. And instead of getting down on ourselves of, oh, I can't believe I had that thought, we can rejoice. I noticed that I have greed. I noticed that I have anger. I noticed I have ignorance. I am practicing right mindfulness, and I am using this technique of opposing forces to retrain my mind so I can live in a skillful manner. We're going from the untrained dog to the well-trained dog. And as we do that, as we make friends with our mind, we end suffering for ourselves and others. So that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to read articles I've written about Buddhist practice, you can do that at my blog, The Same Old Zen. The link for that is in the description for this talk. Also, if you'd like to continue the conversation, please leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you, and I promise I'll respond. So, until next time, Amitabha.